know that old trend on social media where you show yourself a decade ago and then now to show your so-called growth in disguise as stagnation? Welcome to the Sports Edition. It's been nearly 15 years since the referee lockout. A series of events that made the NFL look so tactless and corporate to onlookers that it cascaded into a ref ball shit pie with a dollop of Fail Mary atop. It legitimately felt like this was yesterday. Hell, everyone involved in the sport probably feels the same. Because after countless strides in technological advancements, for some reason the NFL still pushes back on the demands of an aspect that brings them mass vitriol.
They've been talked about every week, but this is ridiculous that we're watching right now. I mean, we see something that takes 5 seconds, it takes them 5 minutes.
The total damage of implementing the changes the refs wanted in 2012 amounted to a fucking rounding error in Goodell's personal paycheck. This time around, the demands seem to be a bit more than monetary. When your wants in a negotiation aren't exactly wage-based, it introduces more nuance to the public opinion. The David versus Goliath analogy falls apart when you realize this fight might just be more about individual egos and bureaucratic slap fights. So yet again, the league threatens to draft replacement refs from lesser leagues and yet again makes the fans and players pay the price. Much has changed since the last refs' collective bargaining agreement. Virtual measurements, automatic booth reviews, studio flag overrules, and more haven't lessened the pressure of refs to make the correct call in critical situations, but rather added a safety net under the balancing act they perform on a week-to-week basis. Yeah, putting further emphasis on judgment calls corrected in real time by a totally nonpartisan eye in the sky from New York can certainly undermine one's confidence. It's honestly why they try not to correct on-field rulings unless it's really egregious. Even then, no guarantees. I wouldn't be surprised if the number of Viagra prescriptions skyrocketed across the Zebra ranks last year. Due to the levels of nuance in their demands, the Referees Association is keeping their cards close to their chests this time around. Meanwhile, the NFL's going all in, showing a full house and slapping their dick on the table for good measure. This time around, they're running the show when it comes to demands. Or at least they were. Apparently, when attempting to negotiate, the NFL sent representatives that proceeded to slap their nuts across the Zebra's face throughout the entire session. A stone wall would have budged more than the Shield allegedly did. Honestly, I'm impressed. They sent the equivalent of a pull-string toy. Our hands are tied. There's nothing we can offer. Key aspects of negotiation boil down to the NFL's interest in meddling with how ref selections work, the pay-based bonus system for refs, and the league's ability to kick those they deem underperforming out the door. As with any labor negotiation, there are a lot of wrinkles the public aren't aware of, so take this with a grain of salt. The Shield has a vested interest in the selection of refs for certain games, especially when the stakes are highest. No one wants their playoff game officiated by Angel Hernandez.
Whoa. 2-1. And, oh my goodness. 2-2. You have got to be kidding me!
But this also allows them to assign what they deem to be their best officiating teams to marquee matchups. Picking and choosing the best refs to assign in January makes sense. There's less football, not every ref's gonna have an assignment then to begin with. But by moving Zebras during the regular season, the league would now have the power to deem what an important game is. Sorry, Titans-Colts on Thursday night, you're getting leftover slop. The Seahawks play on Sunday night, and we need the goodest boys in place to enforce our narratives to a national audience. Sure, if you asked anyone at the beginning of the season for a Super Bowl favorite, they wouldn't have sent Seattle or New England. But a regular rotation of officials allowed the teams not assigned as postseason punishers in Week 1 have the same shot at fair ref calls as any other game. The other major points of contention lie in the allocation of bonuses being paid based on performance instead of assigned games, creating a practice squad of referees to replace anyone deemed underperforming or incompetent, and the aforementioned kick-out request. If you ask me, the ability to kick any member from their ranks was added by the Shield for negotiation's sake, and it's absolutely a necessary one for fans of the sport. But any union worth its shit would never allow its membership ranks to be actively managed by an outside organization to fire and remove at will. As far as the practice squad and performance-based pay, I can see both pros and cons. Creating a larger pool of ref staff ready at a given moment may be beneficial even if they're part-time and work at law offices during the week. But using a scoring system on a game-by-game basis to assign those refs? Risky. Like the NFL rulebook, it's going to be based on judgment calls. Not every game's gonna have contentious moments. The Fail Mary probably wouldn't have happened if it was the Seahawks versus, say, the 2012 Jaguars. Those teams had massive talent disparities back then. Tight games by good teams pulling at the slivers of advantage will always have more contentious moments than a classic bell to ass-a-thon.
The ruling on the field is a touchdown. However, pass interference.
So when you have more close game-determining calls, the refs of those games have a far greater chance of fucking up. Meanwhile, Dick and Jack over in Cincinnati get to sit pretty while the Rams systematically resize all the Bungles' holes into a form of skyline chili. I get the want to immediately side with the humble part-time labor compared to the mega corporate behemoth. But these negotiations are playing out for a very important reason. Throughout the sports world, fans and the leagues themselves are having a discussion that didn't even exist 15 years ago. How perfect is too perfect? With the proliferation of machine learning, next-gen stats, increased camera angles, booth reviews, calls from New York, calls for sky judges, and virtual measurement, we're inching closer and closer to a mechanically perfect game in theory. What we need to decide as fans moving forward, and what the refs and leagues are attempting to sort out now, is how much organic humanity we want in our officiating. Is human error a natural part of the game, or is it something that needs to be nullified? The right call or human pride and ego? Two things that usually can't coexist. I'm genuinely curious to see how this unfolds in the next few months. If we end up getting replacement refs again, it's gonna be a shit show for the fucking ages. Again. It's a conundrum we may be seeing here first, but it's gonna hit the sports world as a whole very, very soon. Get the popcorn, kids. Fireworks are coming for all to see.
Big Ben takes a knee. And we are going to overtime in Baltimore.
This is the end of the game.